Hey guys, it's Adam and Bird with Guitars. I got an interesting message from a customer who had purchased a cigar box guitar from the website page, from eBay, and during transit through Australia Post, it might have taken a bump or something like that, or I'm not sure. Maybe even he was changing the strings when he got it. I'm not too sure. But one of the things he was talking about, the thing that he questioned about, was the bridge. And I suppose it's a quite a sensible enough question to ask me. But when he changed the strings, the bridge actually came loose. And as you can see with this one, it is loose. All right. And what you've got here with cigar box guitars in general, and I'm going to say in general because not all cigar box guitar builders make them with movable bridges or removable bridges, but most of us do. And even to, with from high-end builders through to guys that are pumping out little cigar box guitars, or actually cookie tin guitars and things like that. So it all depends. I mean, all different builders, and even myself, I'll range some guitars that I build will have more detail. Some guitars I do will have less detail. This particular range that I do here, which is the Hurricane range are made using basically fretless necks, PZO pickups. They're a pretty simple guitar. But from this guitar all the way through to some of the higher end guitars that I do, if I'm using a timber bridge like this, it floats. And there's a very simple reason for it. When we play guitar, all right, and you're playing a fretted string, I'll give you an example here. When you're playing a fretted guitar, it's all about intonation. And even when you're playing a fretless guitar, it's still all about intonation. But one of the things that happens when you're playing a fretted guitar, and unfortunately the only guitar I've got here that's fretted at the moment is a ukulele that I'm working on. Now, this ukulele is going to have a bridge about here, where my index finger is, just there. All right. And the length of the string from the nut, which is located up here, to the bridge, which is located down there, there's a scale length involved. And scale lengths can change. This particular one's 23 inches, I think, off the top of my head. But what you'll find is that we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 12th fret here is halfway between the nut and the bridge. Okay? So when you're playing a string and you press your finger down on the string, what you'll find is that the length of the string changes. So in this case, I'd be putting my finger on the 2nd fret, and it shortens the scale length. And the higher I go up the neck, the higher the tone goes, and the notes go up, and then I go down. A good intonation happens when you've got a really nice straight fret, and especially if you're playing chords, it means that the distances are all organised so that they intonate or they play in tune. All right, let's move over back to the fretless guitar, which is similar in some ways to the guitar that the gentleman bought off eBay. The one he bought off eBay was a Rolling Thunder guitar, and has an electric guitar pickup, and again is fretless, and very similar to this. Okay, so you've got this particular model. I have the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, and then the 12th fret markings, and this is right where the fret would be. So the difference here is that when you have a standard fretted guitar, the dots would sit in the middle of the 2 frets. And that just lets you know where they are. In this case, and as you can see, even with the... Actually, I'll grab this neck here. This neck's just about to go onto a Lightning Boy guitar. You'll see that the fret dots are in between the frets. With a fretless guitar, I put the dots where the frets would be. All right, so the distance from the nut, which is up here, to the 12th fret, which is there, that's the octave, is the same distance, again, down to the nut, which is here. Okay, so why do cigar box guitar builders make the lengths, or make the bridges float? Well, actually, in my opinion, it all has to do with that hand. And that, or if you're a left-handed guitar player, then that hand. It all depends on how you hold your slide. All right, everyone holds their slides in slightly different ways. I'm just going to borrow one of the Justin Johnson slides from Rocky Mountain Slide Company. Now, what you'll notice with the way I'm holding my slide is that predominantly, most of the time, I hold my slide on my ring finger. All right. Some people like to play with the slide on their pinky. Some people play with it on that finger, on their, tall man. Okay. What is important is that the distance again from the nut to the 12th fret is pretty much the same from the 12th fret down to the bridge. The reason that I personally, I'm not going to speak for other cigar box guitar builders, but the reason that I leave the bridge floating is so that you can actually find a bit of an angle. Now, the first things first, I'm lucky, I've got to admit, because I've got one of these lovely long rulers. All right, so I'll sit here and I'll put it here at the nut, rest it down, and I'll do it that way. Now, there's different ways you can do it if you wanted to. You can eyeball it. You can eyeball the difference in length, or you can measure it. If you're changing the strings, the one thing I would suggest is remove the strings one at a time. That way, you'll pretty much keep the bridge pretty much in the right spot. At other times, I'll actually put a fine pencil mark where the bridge should be, and in this case, there's a very, very tiny little pencil mark just at the tip of my finger. And depending on how good your resolution or how good the resolution is that I uploaded this video, that's the mark there, just on the tip of my finger. So when I put my strings on, I pull pull the bridge back. But you'll hear that's now slightly out. So I'm going to reach in it. All right, so I'm back in. Now, you'll notice that this bridge is slightly angled forward at the lower bout and slightly back on the upper bout. Now, this aids with intonation. Okay, so if you look at a standard electric guitar, you'll find that the bridges are designed so that there's sometimes a bit of even like a little lightning bolt kind of, a very slight lightning bolt shape. How from the 6th to the 5th to the 4th, it comes forward and then it comes back a little bit and it does the same thing again. Now, that's something you might find on some guitars. With these guitars, with these types of bridges, I tend to angle mine forward a little bit. But having said that, I've seen some how they'll actually angle them back a little bit. Like that. Good place to start, in my opinion, is to start with it relatively straight. Now, I like to also find if I can make a nice pitch harmonic, and that's when I'm just lightly touching the string. I'm touching the high string here, right above, and I'm not touching it like that, so you can see I'm not touching it and pressing it down. I'm just very lightly touching it, and what I'm doing is picking the string. So if I was to press it down hard, you'll hear that, but I'm not. and that's creating an artificial pitch harmonic. Now, I like to hear those pitch harmonics over those fret markings. Now, if I've done that, I know that my bridge is pretty much where it should be. Now, the reason I angle the bridge, whether I'm angling it that way or backwards a little bit or very straight, it's very simple. This is a fretless guitar. I don't have to worry about intonation being super fine so that I'm playing fretted notes. But it's important in the way I hold my slide. Now, I hold my slide relatively straight. But you might notice that some people may hold their slides at a slight angle. Now, I find it quite good in that I can actually adjust the bridge to suit my style of slide playing. All right, so depending on how you hold your slide, I tend to adjust them slightly, and I'll adjust them for myself. If they're sitting somewhat like that, and they're sitting again slightly forward at this point, at the bottom bout, then the top, in my opinion, you're pretty much safe. You can adjust your hand, I suppose. But depending on how you play, you may want to adjust the bridge to adjust the intonation. So if you notice you play a lot like that, then adjust the bridge. Adjust the bridge so that you can actually hear it and it sounds better to you. Ideally, try and keep it straight if you can. All right, so that is why I, and I suppose a lot of my fellow builders, leave these floating bridges floating. So again, if you're worried about the placement of these when you get them, if you're not 100% comfortable with figuring out, what's the distance, change your strings one at a time. Otherwise, if for some reason, if you do receive these through the post or through a courier and they've been bumped or it's come loose or for whatever reason, just simply remember the distance from the nut, which is this point up here where the strings come over the top of the fretboard at the top of the neck, it should be the same distance to here at the octave or the 12th fret as it is to the bridge down here. This point here is directly halfway between the nut and the bridge. I hope that helps. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, Adam at Birdwood Guitars. I'm happy to answer any questions. Message me if you like. Yeah, so I do hope that helps. I know it's a long video. You put up with me. Anyway, have a great one. Bye.